did she do? The text says, then, leaving her water jar, the woman went back to the town and said to the people, come see a man who told me everything I ever did. Could this be the Messiah? And then they came out of the town and made their way toward him. And many Samaritans from that town believed in him because of the woman's testimony. Because of what she said. He told me everything I did. Though not clearly stated, the text indicates that what she went and told them, I suspect, were the transgressions that were pointed out. She went and told somebody. You see, one of the things we fail to grasp is that new life is linked to our sin. Do you realize that? Our new life is linked to our sin. We can't have new life without confronting our sinful nature. We try to. We want to. But we see in this particular story, it doesn't happen. And if you think you can encounter that new life apart from confronting our sin, I suspect you're probably drinking from the wrong well. Or drinking the wrong water, at least. I know, I've tried it. I can speak to this one. That it has to become a confrontation. You see, this kind of confrontation of our sin, as I said earlier, that is the intimate encounter of Jesus. A holy, merciful God won't look past our sin because he loves us. He won't come here next to us and get close and say to somebody he dearly loves and cares about, oh, stay in bondage, stay in injury, stay in pain. He won't do it. He will invite us out. That's how we become intimate with the Lord. Not by hiding our sin, not by covering it, not by throwing it away. You see, because the only place where we encounter mercy is at the point of our sin. It's the only place you can get it. Where it becomes clear. Which is what we see with this story. Jesus reads this woman's mail. And don't get hung up on the marital thing, okay? He's just using that as a particular example. Don't go think this is on a mission that's only about marriage. It could very well be, if it were today, internet porn or whatever. It's pointing out that when she talked about her relationship, said, I don't have a husband. He said, well, let's clarify that fact. But it's because only through facing our sin that we can counter his mercy. And here's an FYI. For all of us, when Jesus begins to reveal to us everything we have ever done, when all those transgressions become to the forefront of our mind, where the weight of them is just on us so heavy we cannot let go of it, we can't carry them anymore, we're on the cusp of revival. And I've spoken with many people who've had those encounters where they're confronted with what Jesus went through. They're confronted with their sins. And they're brought to their knees and they receive his mercy. And the first thing they do is, hey, you got to come over here where I went last week. This is great. That place of pain, that place where our sin resides, is where we're going to encounter his mercy. I know when God began to deal with me with my sin, it was awful. Horrible. I call it being introduced to myself. I didn't want to address it. I didn't want to face it. Because when I started seeing that sin and who I was, and still am, working on it, I didn't like what I saw. It was a burden, so I tried to be nice. I tried to do better. went to church more, involved in all kinds of stuff. But it did solve the problem. I did encounter His mercy. Intellectually, I understood it. Everybody told me that, but I didn't encounter it. And I had one particular incident that when God started convicting me, which I think like this woman with her situation, it was a weight and a sin I didn't want to confront. I had an employee, most of you know I was self-employed, had a window business. I had an employee, Chris Mercer, young guy, 23 years old. Had a couple of kids, hard worker, been with me about 3 years. And at this particular time, things with the business were getting tight. Paydays were a struggle. Paying the suppliers was difficult. I was juggling funds such that I had to make sure that this deposit got in to clear this check, and it got like that. And here's a fellow that had nothing to do with my lot in life. And a payday came along. He lived a little ways from the work. And I gave him his paycheck. I said, Chris, don't cash the check till tomorrow, because I have to clear a supplier's thing. But I had the money. It was just a matter of juggling. I said, please, just hang on till tomorrow. And the next day was his payday. But I wanted to be easy with him. Now, I did a thing with the employees where I allowed them to take all the scrap. We had the aluminum trim coil and the old windows, the aluminum. I let them take the scrap metal to get beer money and stuff. It was never an issue. I never said anything about it. It was never discussed. I knew they were doing it. They knew they were doing it. But it didn't really matter. Well, I gave Chris this check. And I allowed him to always drive the company vehicle. Well, he went across the street to the bank and cashed it, which caused me to bounce a check to a supplier. My problem wasn't his problem. My problem was my problem. Well, the next morning I brought him in. I told him, you're fired. He goes, why? I said, you've been stealing from me. He goes, what do you mean stealing from me? I said, well, all that scrap, that metal, selling it off, that belongs to me. You can't do that. Now, was that an issue? No, it really wasn't. It wasn't an issue at all.